And tonight I'm going to add something to that. And that is 128, just a short section of it. Before my awakening, while I was still only an unawakened bodhisattva, I perceived both radiance and the object of meditation. Hello? 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 Okay. Well, we'll try that again. Before my awakening, while I was still in only unawakened bodhisattva, I too perceived both radiance and the object of meditation. Soon afterwards, the radiance and object of meditation disappeared. I thought, what is the cause and condition why the radiance and object of meditation have disappeared? This is a major insight into the practice itself. Now you have to understand the Bodhisattva didn't have anybody to tell him what happened or why things happened. He had to figure it out for himself. And this question, what is the cause and condition why the radiance and object of meditation have disappeared, is a key question for you. Because if you have something that is blocking you, something that's stopping you and distracting your mind, and you want to find out what that is, you have to ask yourself the question, why is this happening? What you're doing is you're asking your intuition to show you what it is that's blocking you from going deeper. So this is a key question that you need to ask yourself, and you have to realize that you are your own teacher. You're showing yourself all of these different things. And this will help you anytime you get restless for some reason and you keep going back to the restlessness. This will help you figure out what the cause is. Why is this happening? Many years ago, I was working at a meditation center, and I was kind of the handyman fixing things that were falling apart because it was an old house. And while I was doing that, somebody came and they wanted to do a retreat. So the teacher came to me and said, I want you to do a retreat with him so he won't be sitting alone. I said, good, that's why I'm here, right? So I started sitting with him and I got restless. I'm not prone to restlessness. I'm more prone to sleepiness and dullness than I am restlessness, which was unusual. And it kept happening. And finally I asked myself the question, why is this happening? This isn't normal for me. I just got done doing a 1-month retreat, and all of a sudden, I was real peaceful during that time. All of a sudden, I'm restless. Why? And the answer came back to me. My intuition answered that. And it said, you really don't want to be sitting. You're thinking about doing all of these other things that need to be done around the house. And I went, oh, yeah, that's true. So I stopped getting involved with those kind of thoughts, and as soon as I did, my mind settled down. And since then, I've found that using your intuition to overcome fear, anxiety, aversion of whatever thing, when you ask those kinds of questions, why is this happening now? What's the cause of this? You will get the answer. And this is a real important thing, and you're going to come up and talk to me about this or that, and I'm going to ask you to ask yourself. Don't ask me the answer to your question. I don't know. Depends on you. Depends on what you're up to. Depends on how you're doing it. Your intuition will always give you the answer, but it comes from a quiet mind, because it's a quiet voice. All of you have had intuitive moments, and if you don't pay attention to that, then you've lost your opportunity to see how you could straighten things out, whatever the problem was. Quite often there's people that, especially in Asia, I think the people in Asia are afraid of their own shadow in a lot of ways. And they have fear coming up. So I get them to, instead of indulge in the fear and fight with it and try to push it away, ask, why is that fear here? What's the cause of this? Your intuition will give you the answer, and you can overcome that without much problem after that. So this is an important part of the practice. And it can show you where some of your old habits are, and how to let go of these old things that keep coming up and bothering you and causing your mind to start thinking about it and trying to analyze it with your thoughts. Now, you're made up of 5 different things. You have a physical body, you have feeling. Feeling is not emotion. Feeling is pleasant feeling, painful feeling, neither painful nor pleasant. You have perception. Perception is always attached to the feeling. They come together. They're conjoined. Pleasant feeling comes up, your mind says that's pleasant. Painful feeling comes up, your mind says that's painful. Sit still. Then you have thoughts, then you have consciousness. Now, what we get caught up in by our old habit is when a painful feeling arises, it doesn't matter whether it's mental or physical, you treat them both in the same way. When a painful feeling arises, we try to think the feeling away. And the more you think the feeling, the bigger and more intense that feeling becomes. So this is where you use your 6 R's. When you start thinking about what is there, and we do have what's commonly called in Asia a Western disease. And Western disease is analyzing. You want to find out why is that, and get involved, and you're 1,000 miles away from what you should be doing. This is the magic of using the 6 R's. The 6 R's are right effort. In the Eightfold Path, there's 4 parts to right effort. I just tacked on a couple different things because you recognize it. Okay, you recognize that your mind is distracted. that is seeing an unwholesome state arise. What is unwholesome? Unwholesome is always, I am that. This is my thought, this is my feeling. So you recognize that your mind gets pulled away. Then you release that. You release it by not keeping your attention on that distraction. And relax. Relax the tension and tightness caused by that feeling. Then you have to bring up something wholesome. So I added another little thing that helps with that. Smile. The more you smile, the faster your progress becomes. That's a promise. So you smile, it lightens your mind, it improves your mindfulness a lot. Then you come back to your object of meditation and stay with your object of meditation for as long as you can. It's pretty simple, but don't try repeating what each step is. Just do what it says to do. So roll your R's together. Recognize, release, relax, smile, return, repeat. This simple thing will take you all the way to Arahat. Because this is right effort. So many times people are teaching other kinds of meditation and they want you to stay with what the distraction is. Say a painful feeling comes up in the body. Now I've done a lot of meditation. And I did most of that meditation with the Mahasi method. And they said, when a pain comes up, put your attention right in the middle of that pain and, quote, see its true nature. Well, if you put your attention on a pain, guess what happens? It gets bigger and more intense. So you're really causing yourself a lot of problems when you do that. So the second step of just let it be there, don't keep your attention on whatever it is that's distracting you. Let it be there by itself, but don't feed it with your attention. Let it be with the Mahasi method. Any kind of distraction, you're supposed to watch it until it goes away. And note it. Well, that doesn't work very well. So don't do that. Because you're feeding it. That means it's going to stay longer and it turns into other kinds of distractions. So allow that to be there by itself and relax. Let go of that tension in your head, in your mind. Now, this is your brain. It's not your brain, really, but this is kind of like your brain. How's that? Now, there's a membrane that goes all the way around the brain. It's called the Meninges. And it goes in between. Every time you have a thought, every time a feeling arises, every time there is a sensation, your brain expands out against the meninges and it causes tension and tightness. Now, some big questions that I kept asking while I was in Asia. I was there for 12 years. Is what exactly is craving? Do you know? What is craving? Craving is the I like it, I don't like it mind. When a pleasant feeling arises, I like it. When a painful feeling arises, I don't like it. How do you recognize craving when it arises? Now, these kind of questions, I went to major teachers all over Asia and asked the same thing, and I never got any kind of good answer. It was actually kind of frustrating. Well, craving is desire. Just don't desire anything and you won't have any craving. That is such a surface, simpleton answer to the question that is quite deep. So, when the way you recognize craving is by the tension and tightness that happens in your head, in your body. And how do you let it go? Relax. First, you have to notice that it's there. Okay, a lot of the meditation teachers, they don't tell you about this, and if you start getting a headache from doing the meditation, they tell you, it'll go away after a while, never mind. But this is key. When you first start noticing that tension and tightness, sometimes it's big, sometimes it's subtle. Doesn't matter. When you notice it and relax, you'll feel kind of like an expansion, like a letting go. And right after that, you'll notice that your mind is clear. Your mind is very bright. Your mind is very observant. And there's no craving in your mind at that time. So your mind is pure. Bring that pure mind to a smile. So your mind starts to develop the habit of being lighter. Almost all one-pointed kinds of concentration practice causes your mind to get heavy. And with a heavy mind, your mindfulness is very poor. One of the things they told me when I was doing so much meditation in Burma and other places was, when joy arises, don't get attached. Well, I didn't want to be attached, so I pushed it away. And my mind got heavier and actually very hard. And with that kind of hard mind comes a critical mind, a judgmental mind, and you have a tendency to beat yourself up if your mind doesn't do what you want it to. So it's a necessary part of the practice to be able to know what craving is and how to let it go. And see the effect of letting it go. That means relaxing, and see how clear your mind is at that time. There's a lot of relief in that. And smile, make your mind lighter. Instead of staying with the heavy mind, make your mind light. That will happen more and more the more you smile. It sounds kind of different than a lot of meditations that you learn, because everybody wants you to try harder. And you have to note more. And there was a lot of pain involved in that. Physical pain as well as mental pain. But when you keep your mind light, when you allow the joy to come whenever it's going to be there, you don't keep your attention on the joy necessarily. You let it be there and relax into it and smile and come back to your object of meditation. Now you're bringing some joy back to your object of meditation. And it actually turns out to be fun. I am one of the few people in the world, I think, that tells you that you're supposed to have fun. I want you to smile. I want you to laugh, especially with how crazy your mind can get. So it's a necessary thing to keep your mind light. Your mindfulness will become much sharper, much more quickly, the more you smile. But if you get caught in thinking about this and that, whatever it happens to be, well, as soon as you recognize that this is what's happening, don't judge your mind, stop moving your legs. That says that you're restless. So I lost my train of thought there. So the more you smile, the more you have a light mind, the easier it is to recognize when that craving starts to come in, and you'll catch it more quickly and let go more easily. So when I say smile, I mean all the time. I don't care what you're doing. Your mind needs to be light. One of the biggest problems I have with people that come here that have done other kinds of meditation is to get them to stop trying so hard. And laughing is a part of the practice. And it's a necessary part of the practice. Why? If you laugh at yourself for getting angry, or whatever the catch of the day happens to be, you are taking it personally. You're really caught in your craving. And then you notice that you're doing, and you laugh with yourself, I got caught again, this crazy mind. As soon as you do that, all of a sudden, that anger, or whatever the catch is, goes from I am that to it's only that. Oh, it's only this anger, it's only this dissatisfaction, whatever it is. Do I want to carry this around with me? No, nobody's that crazy. So just let it be. And right after that, your mind is very clear, your mind is very observant, and you don't have that craving tightening things. Now it becomes loose. This is the fastest way to let go of a hindrance. I have some people that come and they're really tight, they're really angry about something. And one of the things I try to get them to do is smile and then laugh. And then I'll say, how does your mind feel now? Oh, I don't have that anger anymore. I don't have that dissatisfaction. This meditation, somewhere along the 2,500 years that the Buddha's been away from us, has changed from a fun meditation to a serious meditation. And most of that comes from doing one-pointed concentration. Your mind has a tendency to get very tight and hard. So asking the question, what's the cause of this? And occasionally you can ask yourself, things aren't as good as they could be. Ask yourself, is there anything blocking me from going deeper? You'll get an answer. Sometimes it comes right away, sometimes it doesn't. You have to be patient. But you will get an answer, and it's going to be one that's going to give you great insights. So now, let's go to the Sutta. Thus have I heard on one occasion the Blessed One was wandering in the Magadhan country and eventually arrived at Rajagaha. There he went to the Potter Bhagawa and said to him, if it's not inconvenient for you, Bhagawa, I will stay one night in your workshop. It's not inconvenient for me, Venerable Sir, but there is a homeless one already staying there. If he agrees, then stay as long as you like, Venerable Sir. Now there was a clansman named Pukusati who had gone forth from the home life into homelessness out of faith in the Blessed One. And on that occasion, he was already staying in the potter's workshop. Then the Blessed One went to the Venerable Pukusati and said to him, if it's not inconvenient for you, monk, I will stay one night in the workshop. The potter's workshop is large enough, friend. Let the Venerable One stay as long as he likes. Then the Blessed One entered the potter's workshop and prepared a spread of grass at one end and sat down. Setting his body erect, established mindfulness in front of him. Then the Blessed One spent most of the night seated in meditation, and the Venerable Pukusati also spent most of the night seated in meditation. Then the Blessed One thought, this clansman conducts himself in a way that inspires confidence. Suppose I were to question him. So he asked the Venerable Pukusati, under whom have you gone forth, monk? Who is your teacher? Whose Dhamma do you profess? Friend, there is the recluse Gotama, the son of the Sakyans, who went forth from the Sakyan clan. Now a good report of that blessed Gotama has been spread to this effect, that Blessed One is accomplished, fully awakened, perfect in true knowledge and conduct, sublime knower of worlds, incomparable leader of persons to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, awakened and blessed. I've gone forth under that Blessed One. That Blessed One is my teacher. I profess the Dhamma of that Blessed One. But monk, where is the Blessed One, accomplished and fully awakened, now living? There is, friend, a city in the northern country named Sawati. The Blessed One, accomplished and fully awakened, is now living there. But have you ever seen the Blessed One before? Would you recognize him if you saw him? No, friend, I've never seen that Blessed One before, nor would I recognize him if I saw him. Then the Blessed One thought, This clansman has gone forth from the home life into homelessness under me. Suppose I were to teach him the Dhamma. So the Blessed One addressed the Venerable Pukusati thus, Monk, I will teach you the Dhamma. Listen and attend closely to what I shall say. Yes, friend, the Venerable Pukusati replied. The Blessed One said this, Monk, this person consists of 6 elements, 6 bases of contact, 18 kinds of mental exploration, and he has 4 foundations. The tides of conceiving do not sweep over one who stands upon these foundations, and when the tides of conceiving no longer sweep over him, he is called a sage at peace. One should not neglect wisdom, should preserve truth, should cultivate relinquishment, and should train for peace. Cultivating relinquishment means letting go of craving. This is a summary of the exposition of the 6 elements. Monk, this person consists of 6 elements, so it was said, and with reference to what was this said, there are the earth element, the water element, the fire element, the air element, the space element, and the consciousness element. So it was with reference to this that it was said, Monk, this person consists of 6 elements. Monk, this person consists of 6 bases of contact, so it was said. And with reference to what was this said, there are the base of eye contact, the base of ear contact, the base of nose contact, the base of tongue contact, the base of body contact, and the base of mind contact. So it was with reference to this that it was said, Monk, this person consists of 6 bases of contact. Monk, this person consists of 18 kinds of mental exploration. So it was said, and with reference to what was this said, on seeing a form with the eye, one explores a form productive of joy. One explores a form productive of grief. One explores a form productive of equanimity. Excuse me. On hearing a sound with the ear, on smelling an odor with the nose, on tasting a flavor with the tongue, on touching a tangible with the body, on cognizing a mind object with mind, one explores one of these objects productive of joy. One explores one of these sense doors productive of grief. One explores one of these sense doors productive of equanimity. So it was with reference to this that it was said, Monk, this person consists of 18 kinds of mental exploration. Monk, this person has 4 foundations. So it was said, and with reference to what was this said, there are the foundation of wisdom, the foundation of truth, the foundation of relinquishment, and the foundation of peace. So it was with reference to this that it was said, Monk, this person has 4 foundations. One should not neglect wisdom, should preserve truth and cultivate relinquishment, and should train for peace. So it was said, and with reference to what was this said, how, monk, does one not neglect wisdom? There are these 6 elements, the earth element, water element, fire element, air element, space element, and consciousness element. What, monk, is the earth element? The earth element may be either internal or external. What is the internal earth element? Whatever internally belonging to oneself is solid, solidified, craved, and clung to. That is head hairs, body hairs, nails, teeth, skin, flesh, sinew, bones, bone marrow, kidney, heart, liver, diaphragm, spleen, lungs, intestines, mesentery, contents of the stomach, feces, or whatever else internally belonging to oneself is solid, solidified, craved, and clung to. This is called the internal earth element. Now, both the internal earth element and the external earth element are simply earth element. And that should be seen as it actually is with proper wisdom. This is not mine. This I am not. This is not myself. So that is one part of developing your wisdom. The other part is seeing this process that we're continually going through of the links of dependent origination, and you'll get more of that in a little bit. Not with this, but during the retreat you'll get more. When one sees it thus as it actually is with proper wisdom, one becomes disenchanted with the earth element and allows the mind to be dispassionate towards the earth element. Now we're going to go over to the advice to Rahula. Rahula, develop meditation that is like the earth. For when you develop meditation that is like the earth, arisen agreeable and disagreeable contacts will not invade your mind and remain. That is a key statement. If you let things invade your mind and remain, you're going to get caught and you're going to be 1,000 miles away thinking this and that and judging and getting caught in all kinds of emotional upsets. So when you allow it to be by itself, just notice that it's there and relax and smile and come back to your object of meditation. These kind of distractions will become less and less as you go deeper in your meditation. One thing that I want you to be careful of, beginners have a tendency to want to 6R every thought that comes in. And if you're staying with your object of meditation, you're staying with your spiritual friend, and you're not distracted away, then ignore those thoughts. Just stay with your friend. They will fade away by themselves. Only when your mind gets fully distracted, pulled away from your spiritual friend, and you're caught up in thinking this or that, then use the 6Rs and come back. So you don't have to 6R every tiny little distraction, only if your attention is pulled away from your object of meditation. That's important. Just as people throw clean things and dirty things, excrement, urine, spittle, pus, and blood on the earth, and the earth is not repelled or disgusted because of that. So too, Rahula, develop meditation that is like the earth. For when you develop meditation that is like the earth, arisen agreeable and disagreeable contacts will not invade your mind and remain. What, monk, is the water element? The water element may be either internal or external. What is the internal water element? Whatever internally belonging to oneself is water, watery, craved and clung to. That is bile, phlegm, pus, blood, sweat, fat, tears, grease, spittle, snot, oil of the joints, urine, or whatever else internally belonging to oneself is water, watery, craved and clung to. This is called the internal water element. Now both the internal water element and the external water element are simply water element. And that should be seen as it actually is with proper wisdom thus. This is not mine, this I am not, this is not myself. When one sees it thus as it actually is with proper wisdom, one becomes disenchanted with the water element and allows the mind to be dispassionate towards the water element. Rahula, develop meditation that is like water. For when you develop meditation that is like water, arisen agreeable and disagreeable contacts will not invade your mind and remain. So you see, not invade your mind and remain starts to get pushed into you with every element. And it makes things more clear. Now the thing that is helpful to the meditation is let your mind be like water. When you have water going down a stream and there's a rock in the way, does it try to push that rock out of the way and spend time trying to force it to go away? No, water just flows around it. So you do that with hindrances. Now, a statement you're going to hear me say a lot is don't make a big deal out of a hindrance. Don't turn it into something that you are attached to and you're fighting with, or you're trying to control and make it be the way you want it to be. But let your mind be like water. What happens when water hits an obstacle? It finds a way around. It just lets that obstacle be there. It doesn't turn it into a major thing to try to overcome. Just let it be there by itself. This is another reason why you want to soften your mind. You don't want to have a rigid mind that's trying to make things happen the way you want. Because this is a different kind of meditation. It's not something that you've ever really experienced before. Just let your mind be like water. Flow around that obstacle. Don't get caught up in it. Don't get involved with it. Let it be there by itself and smile. Come back to your object of meditation. Just as people wash clean things and dirty things, excrement, urine, spittle, pus, and blood in water, and the water is not repelled and disgusted because of that, so too, Rahula, develop meditation that is like water. For when you develop meditation that is like water, arisen agreeable and disagreeable contacts will not invade your mind and remain. What, monk, is the fire element? The fire element may be either internal or external. What is the internal fire element? Whatever internally belonging to oneself is fire, fiery, craved, and clung to. That is, that by which one is warmed, ages, and is consumed. And that by which what is eaten, drunk, consumed, and tasted gets completely digested, or whatever else internally belonging to oneself is fire, fiery, craved, and clung to. This is called the internal fire element. Now, both the internal fire element and the external fire element are simply fire element, and that should be seen as it actually is with proper wisdom thus. This is not mine, this I am not, this is not myself. When one sees it thus as it actually is with proper wisdom, one becomes disenchanted with the fire element and allows the mind to be dispassionate towards the fire element. Rahula developed meditation that is like fire. For when you develop meditation that is like fire, arisen agreeable and disagreeable contacts will not invade your mind and remain. Just as people burn clean things and dirty things, excrement, urine, spittle, pus, and blood in fire, and the fire is not repelled and disgusted because of that, so too Rahula developed meditation that is like fire. For when you develop meditation that is like fire, arisen agreeable and disagreeable contacts will not invade your mind and remain. What, monk, is the air element? The air element may be either internal or external. What is the internal air element? Whatever internally belonging to oneself is air, airy, craved, and clung to. That is, upgoing winds, downgoing winds, winds in the belly, winds in the bowels, winds that course through the limbs, in-breath and out-breath, or whatever else internally belonging to oneself is air, airy, craved, and clung to. This is called the internal air element. Now, both the internal air element and the external air element are simply air element, and that should be seen as it actually is with proper wisdom thus. This is not mine, this I am not, this is not myself. When one sees it thus as it actually is with proper wisdom, one becomes disenchanted with the air element. Disenchantment is a finer degree of equanimity, of balance. So these different things that can come up, they don't make your mind wobble and go to them. It just allows them to be without judging or condemning, or just letting your mind be in a state of balance. Every different level of the meditation, and that's what a jhana is it's a level of your understanding. Every different level has different degrees of this balance that happens in your mind. And when you get to the fourth jhana, it's going to be very strong. Now, this is going to carry over into your daily activities. One of the meditations, or one of the books that I wrote was Life is Meditation, Meditation is Life. And what I'm trying to show you is this isn't all the time practice. So you can practice it. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Can you smile with it? Can you have a light mind? I've had some computer people tell me that I can't practice. I have to think when I'm doing this. Well, okay. Can you think with a smiling mind? Can you have fun doing it instead of the frustration that happens when the machine doesn't do what you tell it to, that you think you tell it to, maybe? But the more fun you have in your daily life, the lighter your mind becomes in your daily life. And everything is very easy. You don't have this mind that grabs on and tries to figure something out. You allow your mind to be uplifted. And if you run across a problem, ask yourself the question, what's the answer to this? What's blocking me from understanding more deeply? You save yourself immeasurable amounts of time. Okay. Air element. Rahula developed meditation that is like the air element. For when you develop meditation that is like air, arisen agreeable and disagreeable contacts will not invade your mind and remain. Just as the air blows on clean things and dirty things, on excrement, urine, spittle, pus, and blood, and the air is not repelled and disgusted because of that, so too, Rahula, develop meditation that is like air. For when you develop meditation that is like air, arisen agreeable and disagreeable contacts will not invade your mind and remain. And think about the air just like the water. It hits something and then it goes around it. It doesn't try to push it over, although sometimes it does push it over depending on the situation. But it naturally just wants to keep flowing the way it's going. So it comes up to a tree, it goes around the tree. So this is a real important thing to understand. Don't resist or push anything. Soften your mind and smile into it. This is an acronym, DROPS. Don't resist or push. D-R-O-P. Soften your mind. You don't have to fight with what's happening. Soften your mind. Allow it to be there. And smile into it. Keep your mind light. What is the space element? The space element may be either internal or external. What is the internal space element? Whatever internally belonging to oneself is space, spatial, craved and clung to. That is the holes of the ears, the nostrils, the door of the mouth, and that aperture whereby what is eaten, drunk, consumed, and tasted gets swallowed, and where it collects, and whereby it is excreted from below, or whatever else internally belonging to oneself is space, spatial, crave, and clung to. This is called the internal space element. Now both the internal space element and the external space element are simply space element. And that should be seen as it actually is with proper wisdom thus. This is not mine. This I am not. This is not myself. When one sees it thus as it actually is with proper wisdom, one becomes disenchanted with the space element and allows the mind to be dispassionate towards the space element. Rahula, develop meditation that is like space. For when you develop meditation that is like space, arisen agreeable and disagreeable contacts will not invade your mind and remain. Now this is talking about going into the arupa jhanas. It's talking about going into the deeper mind jhanas, mind only, where there's no body. Just as space is not established anywhere, so too, Rahula, develop meditation that's like space. For when you develop meditation that's like space, arisen and agreeable and disagreeable contacts will not invade your mind and remain. Rahula, develop meditation on loving kindness. For when you develop meditation on loving kindness, any ill will be abandoned. Now we're getting into talking about the Brahma Viharas, which is what I teach you here too. Rahula, develop meditation on compassion. For when you develop meditation on compassion, any cruelty will be abandoned. Rahula, develop meditation on joy. For when you develop meditation on joy, any discontent will be abandoned. Rahula, develop meditation on equanimity. For when you develop meditation on equanimity, any aversion will be abandoned. So the Brahma Viharas are a major thing to go through. And that starts your personality development, where you have more equanimity towards everything. You have more balance of mind. And your mindfulness is very sharp when you get into these. Then there remains only consciousness, purified and bright. What does one cognize with that consciousness? One cognizes this is pleasant. One cognizes this is painful. One cognizes this is neither painful nor pleasant. In dependence on a contact to be felt as pleasant, there arises a pleasant feeling. When one feels a pleasant feeling, one understands I feel a pleasant feeling. One understands with the cessation of that same contact to be felt as pleasant, its corresponding feeling, the pleasant feeling, that arose in dependence on that contact to be felt as pleasant, ceases and subsides. So this gives you a real good idea of everything is part of a process, and you'll get to understand this process as you go deeper. One thing that I pretty much guarantee is you're going to be a lot smarter at the end of this 10 days than you ever thought possible, because you're going to have direct experience. You're going to see all of these things that I'm talking about. just as the contact and the friction of two fire sticks, heat is generated. And fire is produced. And with the separation and disjunction of those two fire sticks, the corresponding heat ceases and subsides. So too, independence on contact to be felt as pleasant or painful, or neither painful nor pleasant, there arises one of these kinds of feeling. One understands with the cessation of that same contact to be felt as pleasant or painful, or neither pleasant nor painful. Excuse me. Its corresponding feeling ceases and subsides. Then there remains only equanimity, purified, bright, malleable, wieldy, and radiant. Suppose, monk, a skilled goldsmith or his apprentice, were to prepare a furnace, heat up the crucible, take out the gold with tongs and put it in the crucible. From time to time he would blow on it. From time to time he would sprinkle water over it. From time to time he would just watch on. That gold would become refined, well refined, completely refined, faultless, rid of dross, malleable, wieldy, and radiant. Then whatever the kind of ornament he wishes to make from it, whether a golden chain or earrings or a necklace or a golden garland, it would serve his purpose. So too, monk, there remains only equanimity, purified and bright, malleable, wieldy, and radiant. He understands thus: if I were to direct this equanimity, so purified and bright, to the base of infinite space, and to develop my mind accordingly, then this equanimity of mind, supported by that base of infinite space, craving and clinging to it, would remain for a very long time. In other words, once you get in a state like that, you can like it a lot and you can keep coming back to it. But you're not going to go deeper when you do that. You're going to be caught in that state, and I have a tendency to push you through all of these different states faster. So you have the experience of them. If I were to direct this equanimity, so purified and bright, to the base of infinite consciousness, or to the base of nothingness, or to the base of neither perception or non-perception, and to develop my mind accordingly, then this equanimity of mind, supported by whatever base it is, craving and clinging to it, would remain for a very long period of time. He understands thus: if I were to direct this equanimity, so purified and bright, to the base of infinite space, and to develop my mind accordingly, this would be conditioned. If I were to direct this equanimity, so purified and bright, to the base of infinite consciousness, or to the base of nothingness, or the base of neither perception nor non-perception, and to develop my mind accordingly, this would be conditioned. He does not form any condition or generate any observation tending towards either being or non-being. Since he does not form any condition or generate any observation tending towards either being or non-being, he does so He does not craving and clinging to anything in the world. One of the things with perception is the very start of your conceptual thinking. We only think in concepts. For instance, show me an automobile. Where is the automobile? Is it the bumper? Is it the headlights? Is it the windscreen? Is it the motor? Is it the wheels? It's made up of a lot of little things put together to make up this concept of a car or an automobile. And that's the way we think. And that's why translation is so tricky. Because the things that you say, you're trying to convey a certain kind of thought or emotion or whatever it happens to be, you're coming from your conceptual understanding of it, and mine might not be the same. So I have to be able to translate every time I talk with you to see that we get on the same page. When he does not crave or cling, he is not agitated. When he's not agitated, he personally attains Nibbana. And that's what we're working for here. He understands thus, birth is destroyed, the holy life has been lived. What had to be done has been done. There is no more coming to any state of being. That's the formula that comes up in your mind when you become an arahat. If he feels a pleasant feeling, he understands it is impermanent. There is no holding to it, there is no delight in it. If he feels a painful feeling, he understands it's impermanent. There's no holding to it, there's no delight in it. If he feels a feeling, neither painful nor pleasant feeling, he understands it is impermanent. There is no holding to it. There is no delight in it. Now this is describing over and over again, letting go of the craving of that. Letting go of the I am that mind. Craving is exactly where the false belief in a personal self originates. When you get to clinging, your stories about and your opinions and ideas and all of this sort of thing. One of the definitions of clinging is that you're very strongly identified personally with whatever it is. But the craving is the very beginning of the false belief. That's why when you let go of that and you relax, your mind is clear. You can still have some thoughts coming through, but they're not going to have I am that thought attached to it. If he feels a pleasant feeling, he feels it in a detached way. That means without any craving. If he feels a painful feeling, he feels it in a detached way. If he feels a neither painful nor pleasant feeling, he feels it in a detached way. When he feels a feeling terminating with the body, he understands, I feel a feeling terminating with the body. When he feels a feeling terminating with life, he understands, I feel a feeling terminating with life. He understands on the dissolution of the body, with the ending of life, all that is felt, not being delighted in or craved, will become cool right then. Now, the definition of Nibbana. Ni means no. Bana means fire. So every time you let go of the craving, you are experiencing Nibbana. Because your mind is cool at that time. Monk, just as an oil lamp burns in dependence on the oil and wick, and when the oil and wick are used up, if it does not get any more fuel, it is extinguished from the lack of fuel. So too, when he feels a feeling terminating with the body or with life, he understands, I feel a feeling terminating with life. He understands on the dissolution of the body with the ending of all life, all that is felt, not being delighted in or craved, will become cool right there. Ain't that cool? Therefore, a monk possessing this wisdom possesses the supreme foundation of wisdom. For this monk is the supreme noble wisdom, namely the knowledge of the destruction of all suffering. His deliverance, being founded upon truth, is unshakable, for that is false, monk, which has a deceptive nature, and that is true, which has an undeceptive nature, Nibbana. Therefore, a monk possessing this truth possesses the supreme foundation of truth. For this monk is the supreme noble truth, namely Nibbana, which has an undeceptive nature. Formerly, when he was ignorant, he undertook and accepted acquisitions. Now he has abandoned them, cut them off at the root, made them like a palm stump, done away with them, so they are no longer subject to future arising. Therefore, a monk possessing this relinquishment, this letting go of craving, possesses the supreme foundation of relinquishment. For this monk is the supreme noble relinquishment, namely the relinquishing of all acquisitions, of taking anything personally. Formerly, when he was ignorant, he experienced covetousness, desire, and lust. Now he has abandoned them, cut them off at the root, made them like a palm stump, done away with them, so they are no longer subject to future arising. Formerly, when he was ignorant, he experienced anger, ill will, and hate. Now he has abandoned them, cut them off at the root, made them like a palm stump, done away with them, so they are no longer subject to future arising. Formerly, when he was ignorant, he experienced ignorance and delusion. What is delusion? Delusion is taking things personally. Now he has abandoned them, cut them off at the root, made them like a palm stump, done away with them, so they are no longer subject to future arising. So, lust, hatred, delusion. They call these the three poisons in Zen practice. But it's actually one poison. It's describing craving. I like it, I don't like it. Lust, hate. I am that. delusion. So this is just a different way of explaining what craving, or how craving works. Therefore, a monk possessing this peace possesses the supreme foundation of peace. For this monk is the supreme noble peace, namely the pacification of lust, hatred, and delusion, the letting go of craving. So it was with reference to this that it was said, one should not neglect wisdom, one should preserve truth, should cultivate relinquishment, and should train for peace. The tides of conceiving do not sweep over one who stands on these foundations, and when the tides of conceiving no longer sweep over him, he is called a sage at peace. So it was said, and with reference to what was this said? Monk, I am is conceiving. I am this is conceiving. I shall be is conceiving. I shall not be is conceiving. I shall be possessed of form is conceiving. I shall be formless is a conceiving. I shall be radiant is conceiving. I shall be non-radiant is conceiving. I shall be neither radiant nor non-radiant is conceiving. Conceiving is a disease. Conceiving is a tumor. Conceiving is a dart. By overcome all conceivings, one is called a sage at peace. And the sage at peace is not born, does not age, does not die. He is not shaken and does not yearn for anything. For there is nothing present in him by which he might be born. Not being born, how could he age? Not aging, how could he die? Not dying, how could he be shaken? Not being shaken, how could he yearn for anything? So it was with reference to this that it was said, the tides of conceiving do not sweep over one who stands upon these foundations. And when the tides of conceiving no longer sweep over him, he is called a sage at peace. Monk, bear in mind this brief exposition of the 6 elements. That was a short discourse. Thereupon the Venerable Pukusati thought, indeed, the teacher has come to me, the Sublime One has come to me, the fully awakened one has come to me. Then he rose from his seat, arranged his upper robe over one shoulder, and prostrating himself with his head at the Blessed One's feet, he said, Venerable Sir, a transgression overcame me, in that like a fool, confused and blundering, I presumed to address the Blessed One as friend. Venerable Sir, may the Blessed One forgive my transgression, seen as such for the sake of restraint in the future. Surely, monk, a transgression overcame you in that, like a fool, confused and blundering, you presumed to address me as friend. But since you see your transgression as such, now this is what we do with hindrances, when we see them as they are, and make amends, forgive yourself for making a mistake, or confessing it to your teacher or other spiritual friend. In accordance with the Dhamma, we forgive you. For it is growth in the Noble One's discipline when one sees one's transgression as such, makes amends in accordance with the Dhamma, and understands restraint in the future. Venerable Sir, I would receive the full admission under the Blessed One. He's asking him to become a full monk. But are your bowl and robes complete, monk? Venerable Sir, my bowl and robes are not complete. Monk, Tathagatas do not give full admission to anyone whose bowl and robes are not complete. Then the Venerable Pukusati, having delighted and rejoiced in the Blessed One's words, rose from his seat. After paying homage to the Blessed One, he departed in order to search for bowl and robes. Then, while the Venerable Pukusati was searching for a bowl and robes, a stray bull killed him. Close but no cigar. Then the number of monks went to the Blessed One. After paying homage to him, sat down at one side and told him, Venerable Sir, the clansman Pukusati, who was given brief instruction by the Blessed One, has died. What is his destination? What is his future course? Monks, the clansman Pukusati was wise. He practiced in accordance with the Dhamma and did not trouble me in the interpretation of the Dhamma. With the dissolution of the 5 lower fetters, the clansman Pukusati has reappeared spontaneously in the pure abodes and will attain final Nibbana there without ever returning from the world. That is what the Blessed One said. The monks were satisfied and delighted in the Blessed One's words. So the things that he purified his mind of, he no longer had any doubt of whether this is the correct path or not. You know from your direct experience this is the correct path. You know that rites and rituals will not lead to Nibbana. Now this is a kind of an interesting thing. I've had some Muslims that I've taught and they were successful with their meditation. And then at the end of the retreat they asked if they could go and pray 5 times a day. And I said, I don't care. It's up to you what you're going to do with your time. Just know that this is the right path. And eventually they will change and become more open and free because of that. But you will know that a lot of people are very much into chanting and they think they can attain Nibbana by chanting. And you know for a fact that you can't. Anything that you verbalize in your mind, that means your mind is not going deep enough to be able to attain Nibbana. Also, you see more and more clearly the impersonal nature of everything that arises. When you get to be an anagami, which is what we're talking about, that's the 3rd stage of awakening. An anagami is a person that never has lust or greed or I want mine or hatred or aversion arise in their mind again. It's kind of a nice state to be in. You have mostly loving kindness, strong mindfulness and good collectedness of mind. So those are the 5 things that it was talked about. So he was an anagami by that practice. You'll start understanding this more and more as we go through the next few days. And you'll start seeing it for yourself as you continue practice. Please smile. Have a light mind. The more you smile, the better your mindfulness becomes. The better your mindfulness becomes, the easier it is to recognize when your mind gets distracted. And you'll start to see that more and more quickly. As you do that, then you'll start staying on your object of meditation for longer and longer periods of time. Keep it fun. Make it a game. Don't get serious with this. It's important to keep your mind uplifted. And you're going to make mistakes. Well, join the human race. We all make mistakes. That's how we grow. Just don't make the same mistake over and over again. Learn from your mistakes. Learn what makes you happy and what doesn't. Learn what brings joy up to you and other people. See, everybody thinks meditation is only about sitting. And that's the furthest thing away from what the Buddha was teaching. The first part of meditation is practicing your generosity. And that doesn't mean giving material things necessarily. It can mean that, because it's fun to give stuff away. But you practice your generosity when you uplift other people's minds, when you help them overcome their suffering, when you smile and you laugh with them. You're giving them that feeling of happiness. And that's practicing your generosity. And the more you practice your generosity, the lighter your mind becomes, the better your mindfulness becomes. So, it can be physically, you're giving your energy to someone else to help them overcome their suffering, whatever it happens to be. One of the big mistakes that has been happening in this country in particular is that people don't really practice generosity. It's more they're being stingy with the things that they know and the things that they feel, and they say, no, you don't understand. But you want to be giving the whole time. Give somebody else a smile. Say something that makes them happy. Do something that helps them to overcome their suffering. And reflect on doing that, and that makes you happy. But it's giving away, it's not keeping it inside to yourself. And I don't mean become a born-again Buddhist, but in harmonious ways. The second part of meditation is keeping your precepts. Why is it so important to keep your precepts without breaking them? Because when you break a precept, you feel guilty. And that's the very beginning of I am that. Why do hindrances arise? Because in the past you broke hindrances. Okay, we've all done it. So, it takes a while to purify your mind. That's why when you're sitting in meditation and you have a hindrance come up, you welcome the hindrance for being there. You don't fight with it. You don't resist it. You don't try to push it away. A hindrance is your teacher. It's showing you where you have an attachment, where the craving is. So be grateful for the hindrances. What you do with what arises in the present dictates what happens in the future. Now the truth is, when a hindrance arises, it's there. That's the truth. Anytime you try to fight with the truth, anytime you try to change the truth, anytime you try to force the truth to be other than it is, you're fighting with the Dhamma. And you're causing yourself immeasurable amounts of pain. One of the things I like most about Buddhism is the self-responsibility. You can't blame anybody else for your pain. Why? Because it's yours. They didn't give you pain. You took it. You fought with it. You didn't like it. And you probably broke a precept. What are the precepts? Well, you're taking them every morning. Two of the easiest things to break is not telling the truth, trying to deceive the world in one way or another. In Asia, it's real big because you're supposed to be polite when you tell a little white lie. Oh, how do you like this set of clothes that I'm wearing? And you look at that and you go, God, that's the ugliest thing I've ever seen. Oh, it's wonderful. It's beautiful. No, you don't do that. Also, cursing. This country is really, really, it's shocking. When I was in Asia for 12 years and I came back, and I was hearing cursing on the radio, in the music, on television, in the movies. You couldn't get away from all this cursing. And what kind of mind do you have when you curse? Is it a happy, uplifted mind? Not really. It comes from your anger. And then you feel guilty for doing it, even though you don't notice that guilt. But when you come for a retreat, you have a lot of hindrances. Why? Because you've broken the precepts. And it takes a while to purify your mind, so you'll go deeper and deeper and progress. I had one student, he followed most of the precepts except the one on cursing. He cursed like a sailor. I mean, he was really using bad language often. And I kept on telling him, don't do that. You're hurting yourself when you use that kind of language, but he didn't hear it. So he'd come for a 2-week retreat, and the first 10 or 11 days, he had hindrances all over the place. And then his mind would start to purify, and he'd have 1 or 2 days of good meditation, and then it was time to get off retreat. Well, he was doing that to himself. After more than 30 years of that, it finally dawned on him, oh, I wonder what'll happen if I quit. his progress was very fast and he became successful with his meditation. But he'd hurt himself all of those years because he liked being like that. He liked having a foul language and making off-color jokes. It was his lifestyle. But when he stopped, then his mind started getting much more peaceful more quickly. That's why you keep the precepts. You're doing it for yourself. And it's no commandments. Nobody's going to throw a lightning bolt at you if you make a mistake. But you know that you did it. And it causes suffering. So, your choice. And we'll get more into that as time goes by. But the cause of all the hindrances is because of breaking precepts. It might not even be in this lifetime that you broke a precept. It might be 5 lifetimes ago you did something that caused your mind to feel very guilty. And you hold on to those sort of things. But hindrances are not there to fight with. They're not to be suppressed. They're not to be controlled. Be grateful that these are coming up so you can let them go when you start feeling more and more light in your mind. More happy. But don't get caught in being critical and hard on yourself. We all do that. But start to be more kind to yourself and forgive yourself for making mistakes. And continue on. There's great benefit in that. And you'll see that on this retreat. So let's share some merit. May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit that we've thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and nagas of mighty power, share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.